Welcome to wesleygospel.com. Today I'm going to talk about um, discursive meditation, which is the essentially the Catholic or biblical teaching on how Catholic monks and nuns approached meditation and how it was a prerequisite to spirit-filled worship or spirit-filled contemplation. So before um, you can reach this state of being filled with the Spirit, feeling the presence of God um, in a state of mental peace with your eyes shut in prayer, prayerful staring at the Lord. Um, you have to do discursive meditation first. Now, this expression, discursive meditation, I believe probably comes down to us through the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, which was founded by Ignatius of Loyola, and various mystical theologians that came after him. But discursive meditation is essentially visualizing the life of Jesus um, at different stages. So every time you watch a Jesus movie, you're doing discursive meditation. Let's just put it that way. If you've ever seen the Jesus film or the 70s movie Jesus of Nazareth, just sitting there watching that is discursive meditation, according to the Society of Jesus. Essentially, they don't say, "Hey, watch these movies," but that's essentially what it is. That's what you're doing. You are you are visualizing the life of Jesus, um, and that's the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius, which was a book written by him, are basically isolated incidents of taken out of the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John of Jesus doing certain things, and then just you reading this to try to sit down, close your eyes, and picture that happening. That's all it is. So in other words, before Jesus movies were invented, this is what people did. They imagined themselves being in the Gospels, picturing Jesus doing things. This is not about Jesus saying things. This is about picturing him doing things like calming the storm on the boat or feeding the 5,000. These visual images of Jesus moving around and doing things and saying things. All right. So that's essentially what discursive meditation is to use your imaginative faculty, to use your imagination to visualize Jesus moving, walking, turning around, talking to people, um, doing actions, and getting your imagination uh, and your creative juices flowing in your mind so that you can see in your imagination, in your mind's eye, a living, moving Jesus Christ inside of your imagination. Now, you might say, well, that's not supernatural. That's just visualizing things. That's just uh, drawing things on your mind's eye. And you might say, well, that's not supernatural. That's true. It's not. Uh, then again, let's ask ourselves this question. Is the imagination non-supernatural? Have you ever thought about that? Well, sure it is. It's the brain. Well, think about that for a moment. Instead of just blowing over it and saying it's the brain. Um, let's ask ourselves some questions here. When a person goes to bed at night and all the lights are off and it's pitch black in the room, and then they fall asleep, pitch black. You feel me? It's a super dark room. There's no lights on. There's not even a night light on in that guy's room. He goes to sleep and has vivid dreams of being in places, seeing all sorts of colors and sounds, and hears people talk. How? How is this possible? How is it possible that he could have a dream with vivid color, vivid imagery, and maybe even emotion? But he's in a pitch dark room. Have you ever thought about that? From a naturalist point of view, how that would even make any sense? If there are no spirits in the naturalist point of view, if there are no angels, no Holy Spirit, and no souls, then how could something like that happen? How can brain matter create light, sound, color in a pitch dark room with your eyes shut? The color's not being borrowed from light. The color's not being borrowed from sounds outside your room. How is that? With the complete sensory deprivation, still experiencing light, color, and sound. I'll tell you why. Because it comes from the spirit world. It comes from either an angel giving you the dream, a demon giving you the dream, the Holy Spirit giving you a dream, or maybe somewhere in between your soul participating in that. Some form of spirit activity is creating this technicolor experience. It's not being caused by brain tissue. It's not being caused by physical matter. There is no reason for that to be a cause. It is being caused by beings of light with intelligence. That's the only thing that matters when you have a complete sensory deprivation and absolutely no light in the bedroom. It has to be coming from beings of light with intelligence that are drawing pictures and creating scenes in the human mind. Now, back to what I was saying earlier about discursive meditation. In discursive meditation, it's all about visualizing the life of Jesus, Jesus doing stuff in the Gospels, and you being sitting there participating, watching him do stuff, like as if you were one of the 12 apostles. Okay, and if and you're sitting there and you're walking around with the 12 apostles and you're seeing Jesus do all this stuff and you're picturing him doing this stuff. Okay, so take yourself back to that time when you were like 6, 7, and 8 years old and you had a very overactive imagination and you like to draw pictures and you like to draw artwork and you like to paint things. Okay, that's what discursive meditation is. It's using your imagination to make Jesus Christ become more alive to you in your mind. Now, that's not supernatural. Wait a second. From a naturalist point of view, it's not. But what is the imagination really? From a point of view that accepts the existence of the human soul. What is the soul? Well, it's a ghost. What is a ghost? It is a mist-like substance. Okay, we're getting somewhere. With intelligence. Okay. So in other words, if I was to cut my arms off, cut my legs off, God forbid, cut my ears off, and I was just a torso, okay, I'd still be alive if the doctors were able to take care of me. Why? Because that living, breathing entity that keeps my organs and my brain alive, that thing that uses my lungs to breathe and communicate life and oxygen throughout my bloodstream, is my soul. The Bible in the Hebrew Old Testament calls the soul nephesh. and in the Greek New Testament calls the soul pneuma, and it means breath. So therefore the soul is breathed through the lungs. Every time you take a breath, that's your soul moving in and out of your body. But it's intelligent as well, and it moves into the brain and it allows you to think your thoughts. And it's also emotional, and it allows you to feel your feelings down in your heart and down in your gut. So your soul is intelligent. Your soul is you. You are your soul. You're the soul. You, your mind, you, your heart, you, your feelings, you, your will, your thoughts, your philosophical, intellectual side, and then your deep emotional side. That part of you that hungers for the supernatural. That part of you that hungers for the supernatural side of life. The part of you that wants to have a dream, a vision, and hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. That part of you that, with that childlike wonder that wants to see a miracle. That's your soul. People sometimes call it the human spirit. I don't think that's biblical. I mean, well, spirit, soul, and body, that's in First Thessalonians, but I think when we start talking about a person's spirit versus a person's soul, we're getting into weird Watchman Nee theology. Okay, there's really no difference. Classical theology says that man is made up of a soul and a body. There's no second human soul called the spirit. No, it's soul and body, same thing. Soul and body. The soul is a ghost-like substance with human intelligence and emotion. So therefore, you, a human soul encased in flesh, you are a soul. You have not seen your soul except in your dreams. If you've ever been in dreams and you've seen your arms and you've seen your legs, that's your soul you're looking at. So when you use your imagination for any reason, you're using your soul. Your soul is you are using that intellectual part of your soul, which is in your head. St. Teresa theorized that the head is where the topmost part of the soul must exist. I agree. Without the soul being in the head, there's no way that we could use our brains. And so since the soul must be in the head, in order for the mind to be there, the soul, the topmost part of the soul, where the intellectual part of it resides, our thinking part, interacts with the brain tissue so that we're able to control our bodies. But I don't think, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a neurologist, and I think that this would fall mainly into the category of neurology, brain scans, stuff like this. But if there is an imaginative faculty that could be measured through different parts of the brain, if I was to be involved in, say, graphic design or a painting, and if I would be painting something and a neurologist had hooked up my brain, my head, to a bunch of suction cups with wires and cords coming out of my head and going into some computer system in order to see which parts of my brain were lighting up when I was painting a nature scene or something with trees and lakes in it and mountains. Maybe there would be a certain part of my brain that would light up when I was using my imaginative faculty. But this does not mean that there is no soul interacting with that part of my brain. You see, It is naturalistic, anti-supernatural, anti-spirit assumptions that make people think this stuff. They've done these atheistic neurologists have hooked people's brains up and monitored sections of their brain. And so when they've been praying and when they say they feel the presence of God with these things hooked up to their brain, certain parts of their brain lights up. And then the neurologist who rejects the existence of spirits turns around and looks at the computer screen and says, see, God's just coming from this person's brain section over here. There is no God. There is no Holy Spirit. Why? Why do you draw that conclusion? You could have drawn that conclusion before you looked at your computer screen. It is your perspective and it is your attitude that is making you say that. The nun who's praying and feels the Holy Spirit and looks at her brain lighting up on the computer screen can clearly see the truth of this issue. There is a Holy Spirit on her as she's praying, and that part of her brain is lighting up on the computer screen. Not instead of, but also. So much in philosophy and in theology, in intellectual discourse, people oftentimes get into a mentality of either or versus type thinking, where it's either going to be this or it's going to be that. It's going to be this versus that. A lot of times, though, the truth is found by combining this and that, both this and that. And in the area of soul-brain interaction, I think this is definitely a really good point of reference. We have both a soul and we have a brain. We have both a soul and we have a heart. And they all interact with one another. They interact. We're integrated beings according to the Bible. Spirit, soul, and body. Not only that, but if you're Pentecostal, you also have the Holy Spirit in you. So you have another spiritual substance at work here as well. But is it true that certain parts of the human brain might fire up while a person's in a state of prayer? Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Is it true that certain parts of the human brain might light up and fire up when they're painting a nature scene with mountains and lakes and evergreen trees? Yeah, sure. Next. Why do people say, see, your brain lit up, therefore you don't have a soul? Why do people say that? I don't understand that. I would think that it would be more accurate to say your brain lit up because you have a soul. Because you were doing the spiritual or emotional activity, your brain reacted to the soul within you and translated neurological information into your brain. Our bodies, in my opinion, are like suits that we put on, like a mascot. You know, like at these sports games where these guys, these goofy guys, they get into these mascot suits to try to to try to get all the fans all excited during the sports game. That's what our bodies are. Our soul is our true self. And then we get put into these bodies when we're infants. We get put into these bodies and they grow around us. And we think that that's all there is because that's all we ever see. Like I said, though, where's your body when you're in a dream? You're not in your body then. Well, actually you are, but you're not experiencing your body. That's your soul. So back to discursive meditation. If you're visualizing the life of Jesus, if you're visualizing that, picturing in your mind that you're one of the apostles and you're walking around with Jesus watching him do stuff and walking on water, is that your soul drawing pictures of Jesus on your imagination? I would think so. I would think so. I would think that you are using your soul, your intellectual and imaginative part of your soul, to draw images of Jesus on your mind's eye, on your imagination. And that may or may not be interpreted by your brain. It's not important. The question is the action of visualizing Jesus Christ an activity that is supernatural? And I think that it could be possibly a supernatural action. If you're doing something with your soul, that is supernatural. And so if you're using your soul for any purpose, it's supernatural because your soul is supernatural. It's not flesh. At any one point where you're doing something that is not meat, it's not flesh, that's not physical, you're dealing with something supernatural, whether it's thoughts, whether it's feelings, or whether it's imaginative. Thoughts, feelings, and imagination. I mean, what is that? Is that physical? Think about it. Thoughts, feelings, imagination. Is that physical? That's no more physical than microwaves or radio waves. We know that they're there, but are they something physical that you can get your hands on? Absolutely not. Thoughts, feelings, and imaginations are not physical, although they might be interpreted by the body. I believe that the source of feelings, the source of thoughts, and the source of imaginations are the human soul. They are received and translated by our brains. Somehow our brain is able to mediate the messages and signals and vibes that come from the realm of the spirit, I think. Our brain can pick up on messages and signals our soul sends to it, feelings, thoughts, imaginations. And our brain can also pick up on signals, feelings, thoughts, and imaginations from demons, angels, and the Holy Spirit. I personally believe that the brain is something like a radio receiver. It might have more functions than that. It might also have the ability to store large amounts of memory, like a hard drive on a computer. But one thing's for sure, whether the brain is a hard drive on a computer or a radio receiver, I don't think the brain would be able to produce intelligence on its own. I believe that the intelligence, the ability to do math, the ability to read, the ability to do logical thought, the ability to write books, that does not come from a brain. That comes from the person in the brain. That comes from the soul, the talents and the gifts of that person's soul. That's what I personally believe. The brain is only the mediator between the person's soul and their body. I wouldn't be able to write a book if my soul didn't have a talent, a gift, or an inclination towards logical thought. All I would have is a brain. See, all my body is brain matter and hands and fingers. Brain matter, hands, and fingers can't write a book if there's no soul to animate them in the right direction. Therefore, the brain, the hands, and the fingers are just a mascot. It's an earth suit, that's it. And when the earth suit dies, guess what? The soul comes out, it pops right out. Where's it going to go? It's going to go to heaven or hell based on how we lived our lives in these mascot outfits that we're wearing called bodies. If you visualize Jesus in your mind, I personally believe you are using the imaginative part of your soul, of your spirit, of your ghost self. That is supernatural. Now, there's nothing astounding, there's nothing remarkable about that because people do it all the time, especially kids who haven't read very many books, right? They're very imaginative. They don't have a problem with that. They've been told to suppress their imagination like so many adults have gotten into the habit of doing. So, why does this matter? Well, the Jesuits were really big on using the imaginative faculty in the spiritual exercises because they believed that that led up to spirit-filled contemplation. The more you did that, somehow, some way, the Holy Spirit reacted. The more you kept on picturing Jesus, sooner or later, Jesus' Spirit's going to come on top of you. Jesus talked about abiding in him in John 15. This seems to support the idea of picturing yourself being with Jesus. Meditation, whether it's abiding, it's cyclical, it's repetitive, it's obsessive. You stick with it, you keep visualizing it. Colossians 1:15 says that Jesus was the image of the invisible God, and that anyone who has seen him has seen the Father. John 14:9. There's nothing wrong with picturing Jesus. Some people are iconoclastic and they're against all images, but you have to remember Jesus Christ was God himself. And people could see him. Remember that. Next time you smash some religious image. You should smash pagan idols, nothing wrong with that. But to smash Christian artwork is absolutely ridiculous, from a New Testament point of view. I remember when I was learning charismatic worship that we were being taught to seek God's face. And this is essentially discursive meditation. You're closing your eyes, you're worshiping according to the music, but you're picturing God on the throne, or you're picturing Jesus' face, or picturing the cloud of the Holy Spirit floating around you. These are mental pictures, and they're not elaborate visualizations. They're just mental pictures that you create and you lock into. And I'm telling you, there's something supernatural about that, because I would feel the Holy Spirit come on me almost every single time I did that. It's just a matter of time. I don't know why. It doesn't require theology. It doesn't require books. It doesn't require intelligence. It doesn't require an education. This is something anyone can do of any IQ level. It's so simple, a child could do it. And I do believe it is a spirit-to-spirit communication between the soul and the Holy Spirit. God bless you out there. This is John with wesleygospel.com.